start things off, why don't you give us the convention pitch for Circles?
That's just silence in this
Oh,
case. This is my game. It's Circles. It's a abstract puzzle game. It's played with mouse movement and some stuff about experimentation and accessible. But in the end, I just cut it down more and more and more every day, every convention. So now most of the time it's just way more effective to let people play.
yeah. So, like you said, nothingness. And when I first played Circles at PAX East, you kind of just said, "Come along, play it, see
Yeah,
what you think."
yeah.
Um,
So
so the real question I had that I wanted to talk about today is that sense of minimalism. And what are the pros you found in designing with that in mind, and what are the cons?
yeah, that's an interesting one because there are some cons, of course. But oh yeah, I'll start with the pros. So yeah, so yeah, you only got so many elements in a minimal game.
Mm-hmm.
So especially when you start, and games is like a big thing to do, especially when you make a game on your own. So it's a lot easier to manage, and when you change something, it's a lot easier to see the effect of the change.
Mm.
If it's bad or good, and you can play test it, and you can sort of wrap your head around the game, which is most of the time pretty hard for games because they can get really complicated. So one game I did before this, maybe you know, it's Westerado.
Yes, I looked into that a little bit before this. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was for us, for our team, but it was a huge game. It was like open world, you can do anything, you could talk to anyone, shoot them at any point, and all kinds of gun mechanics. So that was really cool, but hard to
What?
get your head around. Like one little change in the balance of the guns could change the whole end game, or yeah, anything else. It's hard to really. Some unexpected things could happen.
Right.
So I just chose to go for my own game, to just go for something minimal. So it's an easy way to learn, and you can just tinker a bit with mechanics, and it's easy. Well, it's easier to see some of the effects of the changes for the player.
Right.
Uh,
Good. Yeah. So it's a very different game than Westerado, and I mean, I I can see why you would do that doing a solo game, but the other thing I was really wondering about is you've said you've made some big changes in Circles as it's come closer to launch.
yeah.
And so what kind of changes have you made in terms of designs and mechanics? And in thinking about that, really how do you go about making these puzzles?
Yeah, so the first part is mostly how the mechanics changed, and so we got the design of the game and everything around it, and the circles, the mechanics of the little circles.
Mhm.
Actually, the circle mechanics stayed just about the same in the 3 years. That was working, but everything around it, like the level select and how to learn people the mechanics and how you die, those things, that changed about like every week or something. So that was really hard to get down, especially how the hell do you learn people, how it works, such an
Mm.
abstract system, without text or without like, tutorials. So that was really something I had a hard time with. Like you wouldn't expect, but the level select, you see like some dots on the top for the levels, and those like I make like five of those level selects with branching paths or some other stuff, and everything just it didn't work. People didn't get it the first 5 times, and then the sixth time I got something that worked. So a lot of there's some other stuff that didn't make it in the end. So most of the things I spend time on, you just don't even see it in the game.
Yeah, I'm
But I
sure. And
most like
especially in a game that's so minimalist. And I mean,
yeah
I'm sure that as a developer that's going to be um somewhat challenging sometimes to I'm sure people like me that walked up to the convention at the first time and are kind of like squirreling their brow and trying to figure out what's going on. Um, I think it's a bold decision though to let people figure it out on their
yeah. But yeah, for me it was the most interesting thing to do because that's what that games are good at.
own.
You don't have that experience or learning experience in movies or something or in books. So yeah, the only unique thing with the game is of course interaction. So I wanted to use that. So you learn everything by just direct feedback from your own actions. So that was something I just wanted to learn more about, and I just kept it very minimal to try and get to the core of that, try and understand it. Yeah, but really, it took some time to actually learn people the mechanics and see how people just learn in general.
What was the process of um, figuring that out, like in testing that idea of not having people have tutorials?
A lot of testing from the start, and that was first you do it with friends, but then I also went to game design, game development meetings, where a lot of people just can play the game for the first time, and but also like at parties from my mom or something, where all kinds of people are playing who didn't play games. So then you really see, yeah, how far you still need to go because those people don't get it.
Right.
Especially with the first few builds that may look similar to what I have now, but for people who don't play games, it's a huge difference now
Sure.
with all the little steps the game makes. So it was mostly tinkering a bit with the levels and the order, especially like in which order do we have the levels, and figure out how fast you can go with a certain mechanic or how to explain a certain mechanic. And sometimes people try things you didn't even expect, and you gotta change the level around. So it was a lot of experimentation just from my part.
So you're set for a release in the summer of this year. What does it look like now that you're at the so-called end of development? Looking back in the past 3 years, what does that journey look like, and what have you kind of how have you changed and how have you learned as a developer?
But what it comes down to is really, I think, especially with like minimal games, is that you got to be good at communication, especially communication in the game itself. Like how do you explain a mechanic and how do you actually talk to the player, sort of in a game way. And this is probably true for any sort of design. Like you try to have good communication towards the user. So really, for my game, it was coming down to how do I explain a simple mechanic like this without words. And so coming down to that essence, I like did a lot of playtesting, of course, and sort of figured that out. But yeah, it's also kind of specific to this game. So I probably transfer some knowledge of that, but it's still, that has been a long road.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But it's pretty fun to see. I've got like every month I've got one build from over 2 years. So it's fun to see where I started, and then it may look similar to the build in the last one. But as I've said, like people who don't play games, it's for them it's totally different. So there's all kinds of just little details that, like the devil is in the details,
Mm.
So many little things that changed and that like improved the experience.
So shifting from specifically circles to you as a developer, how did you get into game development?
Yeah, I think in 2009 or something, I started with Game Maker.
Oh,
I
cool.
think like a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I just remember Googling for something like Maker or something. I wanted to make something. I was interested in that, and I never really played that many games. But some small games. But I just found Game Maker, and I just started changing some Pac-Man code,
Hmm.
and that's sort of where it started. And I just played with it a bit, and at some point I found Flash, and Flash was of course the only way that I knew of that time to get a game online.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really into Congregate and into all the art games at the time,
Yeah.
like Passage. Maybe you probably know Passage. And
Yeah.
Great, good one. So all the art games I was pretty interested in, and then I got to a game school because I knew it was something I wanted to do, and so I did. I graduated like 2 years ago from like game design and development, and so from then on I worked on Westerado, which been a pretty huge project, and well, from then on, I've been trying to figure out what I want to do with the games,
Mhm.
what I want to explore. So for me, it came down to just more abstract games and minimal, trying to get to that essence and really try to, how do you call it, to do as much as possible with as little as possible.
Right, yeah, that minimalism.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you didn't play a whole lot of games, but what are some other games that you have played or you've taken inspiration from?
Yeah, lately I'm still not playing a lot of games. Maybe it's probably something you hear from a lot of developers.
Yeah.
I don't have that much time. But um, lately I've been playing a bit of Limelight.
Oh yeah.
It's not yet, but you know it.
I've seen it. I've seen some bits of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was also at PAX East with the indie mini booth. So that's one. They're still in development, but it's getting there. It's almost done, I think. So yeah, I'm still playtesting it a bit for Brett.
Hmm.
So that's, yeah, of course, also a minimal abstract puzzle
Right.
game.
Right.
So not a unexpected pick, I guess. Another one I just lately played is Kingdom
Kingdom. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
from Nojo, like a Dutch developer.
Yeah.
So, so that one also doesn't explain you anything, but
Right.
there's so much
You just kind of
attention.
dropped in there and left to
Yeah,
fend for yourself. That's interesting that you pick up.
that's all. Yeah, you can drop coins and give them to people, or all kinds of little things you just start to notice. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then there's Mini Metro, which I played. It's cool.
Mini Metro.
And
Yeah.
actually, one game I just completed, and like it's been 2 years or something before I actually completed the game. That never happens. That's the Witness.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
was also a big fan of Jonathan Blow
Right.
and his whole philosophy around games. So yeah, those are mostly the games.
Yeah, and you've kind of jumped to my next question, which was going to be, some of those indie developers you think are doing cool work out there. So you mentioned Limelights, and
Yes,
Kingdom.
highlights from Brad Taylor. Also just a one-man indie.
Hmm.
Well, we've got some cool devs in Holland, in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
So also you must know like Adrian De
Mm.
Jong, Adrian with Hidden Folks,
Yeah.
also doing pretty good. And were you at the experimental gameplay workshop?
I wasn't. No.
Ah, well, there's also a game from Richard Boeser, also a Dutch guy, and he's working on also an abstract, like local multiplayer racer game called Chalo Chalo.
Chalo Chalo. Ooh, I'll have to
Yeah,
check that out.
that's pretty cool. Yeah, and well, then you've got some, like you probably know them, like William Cheer, which I'm also following on Twitter with Manifold Garden,
Hmm.
and I love Line Wobbler from Robin. Do you know that one?
I haven't actually heard of Line Wobbler.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
haven't heard of that one.
it's everywhere. Also on PAX, you must have seen it
I.
with like a one-dimensional, what do you call it, dungeon crawler.
Oh, cool.
It's just one strip of LED lights, and you wobble through it with a sort of weird controller. Oh,
I'll have to
got
check
it.
that out. That's cool. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm sure I've seen some of these games, at PAX, but when you're in that mass of people, it's
yeah.
easy to lose some of them. Jeroen Wimmers, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time to talk to us, and we'll certainly keep people in the know about Circles and when it comes out this summer.